Welcome to the Pathless Path podcast. My name is Angie Wang. Today on the show is my co-host Paul Millard.
Here we are.
Okay. By the way, my name is Angie Wang, not Angie Miller. We have this joke a lot of times when we went on a family vacation.
So we have our baby monitor ready. We have a 4.5-month-old ready to go. So we may have to cut this short if we get interrupted. But I'm ready to go. You came up with an agenda for us. So maybe talk about what we're planning on doing.
Today we're talking about creators as parents, or parents as creators. Basically, our reflections on what it's like to be a parent while creating online for the past 4 months. So for the past 4 months, our daughter was born. We went through 2 months of basically like a quarantine period for both of us. Well, not really. That we'll talk about later. Then our parents visited from Connecticut and from Taiwan. We hang out with Michelle with tons of our friends. And we went on a family vacation in the Northeast. These sounds like random events, but they will actually be very important when we talk about what it's like to be a parent and the creator later. We're going to talk about what's surprising and unexpected about being a parent, and what's surprising and unexpected about our work or creative projects. Then today we are going to do a time bucket exercise, which is, if you subscribe to Paul's newsletter, you will know it's from the Die with Zero book, where we're going to talk about for the next couple of years, what are the dream to-do lists we have for each time period. Okay, so let's recap. What is the most surprising and unexpected thing about being a parent for you?
So such a big question. So I do want to correct the initial intro. We haven't really been like creating and doing the parent. I feel like we've been like prioritizing parent.
That's part of the conversation.
Number one. But I think the most surprising thing is how awesome it is. I just get so much day-to-day joy out of, one, seeing you with Michelle and also just being with her. I think I had this, like, it's so hard to anticipate what it's like going to be like becoming a parent. Everyone says all these things. There's all these societal scripts. Oh, once you do this, you're never going to be able to, you have to figure this out. And it turns out that you basically just can't put words into describing how awesome it feels. And I think I quickly updated my mental model of how I was going to spend my time to basically, I want to prioritize parenting above everything else because it's fun and enjoyable, and sort of like push down work. Still keep fitness and health up, but definitely deprioritize work more than I expected.
All right, we'll talk about creative and work more in the second session. And I agree with you. I think the most important thing is I was surprised by how our happiness level was so much higher than we were before pre-Michelle time. And I think when I was reading Emily Oster's book on Crib Sheet, which is the book she talks about. She investigated, she read through those longitudinal studies, and then she found out different aspects about parenting. And then one of them says, on average, the quality of marriage, or like the satisfaction can't really pronounce this, satisfaction degree of marriage dramatically drop after your kids are born, because you barely have time to talk about, we barely have time for each other anymore. All your focus is on kids. But for me, that's absolutely the opposite. If my happiness level, like the happiest day I had pre-Michelle is a 10, then now it's 100. Like, I'm not even joking. You know, like, I think especially when I was in nomadic life is sort of like, yay, I'm in heaven, I'm creating, like, life is awesome, but there is a certain type of like aimless, that void feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I will be on the beach, and then on a Sunday afternoon, I'm like in this heaven-like beach, sitting in a coffee shop, eating gourmet food and drinking coffee and writing. But I just feel like there is something lacking that I don't know what it is. But now on a Sunday morning, we did literally nothing but just pick Michelle up from the bassinet and then put her on our lap and play with us and see her lap. That is like the happiest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like the level of joy is like something just overflowing out of your body and like attacking your head. Like, you're so happy, you're so happy, you're so happy. This kind of feeling.
Yeah, I think this was the disconnect between us on that path. You always felt like you didn't have what I had, which was I had sort of fallen into work I loved doing. And it was easy for me to write about, like the traps people get into on a creative path, because I saw you struggling with not finding your thing. So thank you for the inspiration for writing. But yeah, I think also I knew you loved kids, and it's been just so cool to watch you with the kids.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, before this, I also feel happy creating, but the happiness level is just incomparable. And on the flip side,
is it a meaning thing? Do you feel like there's like your days have more substance?
it's like there's a void, but you don't know how to fill it, and you don't know what is the shape of the void. And after Michelle come, I was like, oh, okay, that is actually for Michelle to fill. Sorry, Michelle, I'm putting a lot of responsibility on you now. Don't disappoint your Asian tiger mom. Just kidding.
Yeah, I think, well, that's amazing, because like my big question last year was, how do I help Angie thrive in the U.S.? And it turns out we just had to have a baby.
That's crazy. I think like before this, I'm not sure if we shared in our previous episode, but I feel so ashamed of admitting that I want to be a mom. Like in this era where people say like, you should be killing in a career field, and then don't let your mom identity encompass everything about you. But I was like, so I like intentionally toned down my desire, or like trying to persuade myself that I want to be a mom, but not that much.
Like trying to fit into the U.S. kind of.
But fortunately, I have a lot of cool creator friends in Austin who also did not avoid talking about how much they want to be a mom at the same time. And that's such a huge encouragement. So this is actually relevant to the other thing that is in my reflection. So I'm going to go first. The other thing that I'm surprised is the suffering about being a parent is not a suffering. What does this mean? So before this, when we were nomadic in Mexico in 2020, I started to have like this really compelling desire of wanting to have a kid. But whenever I hop on my motorcycle and I want to go somewhere, I always thought to myself, do I really want to give up this freedom of just doing whatever I want any time of the day? Is it really worth it? And every time I was in a social situation or like in a coffee shop or restaurant and seeing how the mom or dad is like struggling, trying to comfort their kids, I was like, nah, I don't think I want to suffer through that now. Or like in a very hot day when you're walking on the street, you're already sweating all the time. This is one of my concerns when I was in Austin. I was like, I'm sweating all the time without a kid. Like how can I suffer through those like even more sweaty than when I have to wear a kid on my body?
Well, it is too hot in Austin for kids right now.
But so recently there's one occasion where I was literally pushing a stroller with on a super hot morning, and I was sweating all over, and I am still so happy. And I see people driving by looking at me pushing Michelle. I was like, maybe they think I'm very pathetic, because that's what I thought like other parents were before Michelle. And then I realized one thing, that everything you experience about being a parent is a totally different metric as compared to not being a parent. It's like being in a traditional career field and ex digital nomad. Why are you so brave to like go out of the traditional path? Don't you afraid that you're not going to be able to like get a raise anymore after you come back? As a digital nomad, what is the passion?
Well, I need 190 pages to explain that.
Yeah, like it's like, oh yeah, okay, that's a joke. It's like, that is not a valid question, because you don't want to, you're no longer valued by the metric of the previous world you're in, and being a parent is like that.
Yeah, people say that all the time. Don't you worry about money? And it's like, yes, and all these other amazing things.
By the way, am I rambling?
No.
Okay, keep going.
People are here for you. People watching, leave a comment in the comments below and tell us who I'm more Angie. It's basically all the feedback I get from listeners. When's your next episode with Angie? But yeah, I relate to that. I mean, when she's crying with me, I think it taxes my nervous system a little less. It's still like pleasurable in a way that's hard to explain.
Okay, that is
Maybe less for you.
that's
No, but like when you're holding her is like kind of upset. It's still like time well spent. I don't feel like I wasted that time, or like it's not time I want to skip.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as a highly sensitive person, I like to label myself as that. As a highly sensitive person, sometimes the crying is a little bit hard to handle. But I do agree, like, those mundane tasks, washing kids' clothes or preparing a bottle, is so enjoyable. I was just like looking at the tiny socks, the tiny onesies that I was putting in the laundry, in a drying machine. I feel so happy and I feel so glad that, oh my God, I can't believe one day I will be able to wash in baby clothes. I'm so lucky to have you. And like when Michelle is crying, sometimes I'll just like, you can keep crying, but mommy gonna dance with you, blah 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 blah. Just doing all sorts of silly things with her, and that is the best. Seriously.
What's next on the agenda?
Okay, you're done with this. Okay. I am surprised by how fast they grow. What about you?
I mean, not that surprised. I mean, I think it's more like how fast they change. Just looking back at the pictures of 4 months ago, it's like, oh my gosh, like this big. Now all of a sudden she's like 4 times the size and so heavy. I think it's just like the day-to-day, every day is different. You're just sort of like powering through. And it's hard to notice the changes in the day-to-day, but like week to week and month to month is pretty wild.
I actually notice a difference every day. Like every day when I approach her bassinet, I was like, wow, you look different again. But I thought
Her face changed a lot in the first few weeks.
Crazy. I thought I will only have the reflection of, oh my God, I can't believe how much they changed. Maybe when she was 1 or 2 years old. But now, just like, I remember the day when maybe within 2 weeks she was born. I was watching Netflix. Sorry, I was watching Netflix. And all of a sudden, I look at her and like her head is just like on my palm. And she is just literally only on my forearm. And it was so tiny. But now, like, every day I'm saying, I can't believe she grows so fast. And I think there is this amazement, this surprise sentiment involved. And there is also a little bit of scarcity involved. Like, how much time do I have with her? And I think at the beginning I cried when I think about one day she will go to college, she will marry someone else. Those Instagram reels are real.
It's a David White quote, everything worth doing will break your heart, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our creative project and our work aspect of this parenthood. What is surprising and unexpected for you?
I think the thing I didn't anticipate was the context switching. So going from like holding Michelle for 2 hours and trying to get her to calm down and feeding her, and then I just can't go type a deep, thoughtful essay after that. I basically have just like radically ramped up my Netflix consumption of like random silly TV shows. And yeah, we're basically trying to do this on our own. We're not doing like the daycare thing. I think that's intentional. I didn't like, for me, that's designing life around work. Like, I respect everyone's choices, but we basically wanted to test, like, can we do this on our own? And I think it's sort of worked. I think the way we operate is like very day to day, and we sort of just adjust what we're doing. We prioritize like the different things we're doing, look at each other's schedule and try to fill in the gaps. I think it's like more or less worked. But yeah, I've have not been able to do that much work, which has been fine. I've sort of been blessed with book sales from heaven. Shout out Ali Abdal if you watch this. But yeah, and just other things happening. I had a bunch of strategy workshops at the beginning of the year that worked out, and I surpassed like our thriving life income in the first, like, before we had the baby, which was a crazy experience for me. I think our thriving life income last year when we calculated was like 70 or 80 grand. So yeah, we hit that pretty early, and to me, that's permission to lean into being more present with being a parent.
Mm-hmm. In Chinese, we have a saying called 小孩自带粮草, means don't worry about where would money come from if you want to have a kid, because the kid will bring the money they need into this world.
I like that. What's it translate to in English?
Kids will bring their own food.
Oh, nice. She didn't bring her own.
It's much more poetic in Chinese.
I think it makes sense. Like in the US, everyone's so obsessed with like, oh, it's too expensive to have kids. But I mean, if you have kids, people are going to help you more. Like all our parents, like they're more invested in the grandchildren than they are us, which is how it should be. But like, they're not going to let her starve. They're not going to let her suffer. We're lucky to live in a world with more resources than 50 and 100 years ago. Yeah, I don't really worry about that stuff. I sort of think it will take care of itself. And it's so obvious to me that I'm going to work hard for her, like to meet her needs. I'll go without clothes. Like I have this great new shirt now. I'm just going to probably wear this for the next 10 years.
I can't go without clothes. Unfortunately,
you don't even buy that many clothes though.
And also, like, one thing about parenting is, okay, before, like, I feel like, when I was very young, like 20-something, I look at moms, or like my mom who just like wear like super ugly clothes. I said, oh God, I never want to be a mom. And now like I'm wearing these clothes for literally like maybe 7 days, and I haven't changed and I haven't showered for like, okay, that's beyond what we're going to talk about today. But I sort of agree and disagree what you said about creative project and work. I think for me, what I realize is, and I also know like a lot of moms agree on this, which is the quality of my relationship with Michelle will actually be higher if I can be having my own space. And so I surprisingly found out maybe 1 or 2 months in, even though I am still tired from all the like lack of sleep at night, I am craving for something to do. Doesn't matter it's work or creative project. And I agree on the writing stuff. It's really hard to do context switching for writing, because you need to gather thoughts, and then you need to think if it's made sense for the previous paragraph and where are you going next. And it's just hard to do writing. It's also hard to do something that needs a continual stretch of a few weeks, like a core-based course. I signed up for Write Out Passage for maybe the first or second month after Michelle's delivery day, and I completely dropped the ball. But one thing that surprised me is how I quickly pick up our project that I haven't done for like maybe 2 years. I was doing mandala when I was in Mexico. At that time, I had a script that...
On stones.
Yeah, on stones. Basically, you pick anything that has an end, like a pen or like cotton swab or a professional dotting pencil, and you just put it on acrylic paint and then put it on something else, like a notebook or stone. For me, when I was in Mexico, that was how I started my art journey. But I abandoned it and I started learning watercolor because I thought the reason why I love mandala is because it's so easy. You don't need to learn how to mix paint, and it's like a no-brainer to as an art beginner. And so I abandoned it, but now it becomes something that is so easy to do as a parent because the quality of the paint, they need it dry very fast, and you can just do part of a project when you are on like a break in between Michelle waking up, and you can do another part of the project on a break when Paul is taking care of Michelle. So I started to do that again, and I found out it put me into a flow than anything else. And after I did the project, I also feel like I can have a better quality spending time with Michelle too. And so I think that's what's surprising for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've actually been a little more creative too. Like I started a file for my second book. And I'm like dumping thoughts. Like I think I've had a lot more time to think. I was doing a lot in the year before Michelle was born. So yeah, doing that, the podcast has still been rewarding. And then I think I've been prioritizing like in-person socializing and fitness, which has been just really important for me over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I felt when before our delivery day, I imagined the first month of taking care of baby is like literally like living in a cave. Both of us just lack up.
It was for you.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah, so it's like, but I was imagining both of us living, both of us not hang out with anyone, lock our door, and just do everything, lack of sleep, and barely handling ourselves. But we're actually handling ourselves pretty good. We also have a baby that sleeps very well, so we're blessed by that. But then I also realized like Paul doesn't have to be home every time. Like whenever I can take care of Michelle, he should go out. He should go get some sun. He should go to the gym and hang out with people because like one of us has to be thriving so that person can come back and provide more energy for the relationship for the other person to keep going. And for me, I think I talk about it in my podcast, which I'm still editing, but I think postpartum is the hardest and it's something that we never just imagine will be occupying such an important role. Because people talk about babies and like how they need to sleep, eat all the time, but no one talks about moms. And when we did our previous episode, we also really touched on that because it's literally unknown for us. And man, those 8 weeks postpartum, it's so hard for me. I think I really have a dip in my mental health, just not being able to move my body. And even though like I was like, Paul, you should go to the gym. And then every time he went and then he come back, I'll be like pissed and not wanting to talk to him because my body's just not recovered to the extent that I can go to the gym yet. But he's been super supportive. So after the 8 weeks of dip passed and then my body is recovering better, I started to move a lot and I moved like I did way more than I was doing than compared to my pregnancy too.
I was not comfortable going to the gym in those first 2 months, but I was just obeying your orders. I would get so nervous leaving you home, like you're in such a fragile state, just physically and psychologically. It's a lot. It was actually like the easiest time with Michelle, I think, because they sleep so much in the first month. Everyone acts like you need help like the first week. It's actually like you need more help the longer you're going, and it depends on the baby. But yeah, I remember being at the gym and like I used to do like 2 or 3 rounds of like sauna and ice bath, take my time, which was a great thing I did before the birth. Like I think we both just like really took a leisurely approach to life. But I would like go and I'd do like, all right, 10 minutes sauna, 2 minutes ice bath, work out for 20 minutes and like rush home.
No, I didn't know that.
Well, I just like didn't want to leave you for too long.
Yeah, if you told me, I would probably be like, you don't have to do it. Just stay as long as you want. And you come back like, why you stay for so long?
No, I mean, you've been 100% supportive of me. And I think we both just tried to make sure we're still our own people. Like you're doing capoeira, you're doing yoga, breath work, different fitness stuff. I'm still doing stuff. And like, I think that's been the key to staying mentally strong as parents.
In terms of having help, though, I do think it's a comparative thing. Before my parents and your parents came to help around 2-month mark, I literally don't think being a parent is that hard. Yes, there are moments where I just feel so tired and I want to sleep, but Paul wasn't available. But it's fine. Like Michelle sleep a lot and like we were very happy most of the time until our parents came and take care of them and we just nap whenever we want. I was like, oh my God, I did not realize how tired I was before this. And so I usually don't show my weakness to my mom. I just want to be like a very tough daughter. Like I don't need her help. But when my mom was here, I actually told her, you know what? It's so nice to have you guys here.
Nice. Well, I think it's just so hard on you. I mean, you're doing the feedings at night, and I was getting up early in the morning, and I was trying to do a lot. I mean, breaking up your sleep at night is just going to wear you down so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we did not expect how much the kid needs the mother. They literally want to smell us.
Especially in the first 2 months. Like, I was useless in some moments. Yeah, it was very clear, like, she needed you.
Do you want to talk about the time where she didn't eat for 2 days, and then what happened?
When she didn't eat? What do you mean?
Give me the time. All right, so there's this 2 day stretch where she just wouldn't eat. She'll be so hungry and crying, and whatever we try to feed her the formula, she just wouldn't eat, and she will only want to come to me for nursing. But I just don't have I have a very low milk supply, which is a struggle at the beginning, and it's like really hard on Paul. And I remember I did this thorough research on internet articles on how to build relationship for your kid and the father so they have a stronger bond. They don't want to just like rely on mom. And after 2 days we found out actually it's the nipple of our bottle is clogged. So whenever we try to feed Michelle, there's no milk coming out. And then we literally starve her for 2 days.
I don't think it was 2 days. It was like
1.5 days. And so I was like, sorry, Michelle, we fucked up. We're new parents. Just forgive us.
You're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to learn. All right, should we move on to the next topic? We still talking about parenting?
People love this stuff. We're deciding what people want to hear.
I don't know what people want.
Comment on the video below. What do you like to hear? So now that we have our kiddo and we have started to have different imagination about our future, let's just talk about time bucket exercise.
Yeah, so quick recap. I read this book, Die with Zero, and we've done a lot of reflection exercises. We did the life book exercise 6 months after we met, where we went through 12 categories of our life and talked about it for like 6 hours. Almost broke Angie with my need to talk about these things. We've also done Designing Your Life plans. And our goal always is like, how do we imagine different possibilities for our life? Which I think is so important because we're from different countries, we're from different cultures, and we sort of have to create our own culture because we don't have a default. And yeah, this book, Die with Zero, basically makes a very persuasive argument that far too many are saving too much for too late in their lives. And he has a sentence in there, it's like, do you really want to be walking the Roman steps in the Roman steps in your 90s? It's like, ooh, probably not. Like, why are people saving so much money? How can we gift money to our kids earlier such that they can thrive and unlock possibilities and memories and experiences? And it, like, I love it. It's like such a good companion with my book, I think. And there's this exercise, it's like time buckets. Group your time into different buckets and then imagine different activities you want to do. And I thought there are 2 cool uses of this. One's just imagine more possibilities, and then also like push things off into the future. I think Bill Perkins, the author, was saying he had his Alaska cruise in his 70s. I was like, yeah, it's like about right. I don't really want to do an Alaskan cruise while I can still like walk and explore and bike around cities and stuff. So we haven't talked about our...
Yeah, we are going to talk about our different time buckets, but before this, since it's very similar to other life design exercise, I think it's good to give our listener a context of how our life design changes over time before this. So we both, as you said, we both did
one before we met. I just pulled up my 2018 one before I moved to Taiwan.
Nice, that's creepy.
Literally 5 years ago.
I think I also did one. So that's from Designing Your Life, the Odyssey planning, 5-year Odyssey planning. You will have 3 choices, which is the first one is what is the next 5 years look like if you just continue to live your life right now. And I think the second one is what is your dream?
Yeah, it's like what if your alternative life, and then what if no one would laugh? I only have one of mine though.
Yeah, the third one is... the second one is if no one would laugh and you can live your dream life, what would it be like? And the third one is if money and fame is not a concern, what would you do? So I want to talk about mine first. I think I also did it in
Before we met?
2018. Yeah.
I had another one where I imagined I would meet somebody, but I do not have a picture of that.
I also do not have.
This is my work one where I don't have to work for corporate salaries by year 4, which I did accomplish. Well, kind of, in my terms, yeah.
Can I go?
Go.
So the first one, I was working in a AI think tank at the time as like a product researcher. And I list out for the next 5 years, I will become a PM and then become a manager and become somewhere like it. And I feel so doomed writing those. But
That's not
they are
you
also
at
the
all.
most real answers though. And also maybe during my 3rd or 4th year, I will meet a guy where I can form a family and then eventually have a kid. And I feel so sad writing those down because as I was talking with my girlfriends the other day, like I think men don't understand how hard it is for us to find someone that we truly love and want to get married. But I guess it's probably the same. Okay, I'm being
Very hard
sensitive.
for me, too.
Yeah, in general, it's just so hard. And we feel so vulnerable
This
writing
is a
an answer
human
like
problem.
that. Okay, it's a human problem.
I think, we both gave up on finding someone before, like right when we were doing those life plans.
Yeah, I feel so vulnerable writing those down, even though those are my true desires. And my second one is what I really wanted to do at the time, which is quit my job and become a personal trainer, and then maybe have my own business, and then running a gym, and then maybe run a global gym or something. The third one is become a surfer in Hawaii. The second one, as we know, both later become true. I didn't own a gym, but I become a personal trainer and have my own online fitness business. Not really business, I created a course to have any more income. But the third one, the most interesting one, what if money and fame is not a concern, and people's thoughts about you is not a concern? I did went to Hawaii and I found out I did not want to live in Hawaii and I did not want to become a surfer. So I crossed it out. And over the next few years, I have different versions coming up, but after I met Paul, those versions are all super similar. I feel like every day I'm already living my dream life. I don't know, maybe I'm just changing a little bit of the projects I'm doing or the places I live, but I'm basically living my dream life. Just that at that time, I didn't know how good it would be with Michelle yet.
Yeah, so mine, I wrote, self-published a book in year 2, which was 2 years earlier than I started it. Build or buy a tiny house. Did not do that, but maybe in the future. And then year 5 was teaching and mentoring role at a university. I don't think I'm tied to that. That I actually put in my late 50s, 60s.
But you are
in the
mentoring
new time
university
buckets.
students, though. I think those are the same thing.
Yeah, I have. I think I was picturing some sort of formal employment. I think just more bullish on the internet now. But yeah, we've done this before. So yeah, should we dive into our buckets?
Okay, so instead of buckets with the same amount of years inside, I did a bucket 1, 2 years.
Next 2 years.
Next 2 years. Bucket 2, the 2 years afterward. Bucket 3, 5 years, and bucket 4, 10 years. Bucket 5, 10 years. And the reason what I did is I actually categorized the bucket based on how old Michelle would be. And I think that makes much more sense for us now. So what is in your bucket number 1?
Do you want me to just read
Wait,
that?
by the way, I think age is really important to help us imagine. So
I'm going to
Paul
be
is
40.
37.
I'm 38.
Oh, yeah, 38. Sorry, math. I'm 34. So at that time, Paul will be 40. I'll be 36. Michelle will be 2 years old.
So these are in the next 2 years. And yeah, I just did this quick before we did it. I put travel to Taiwan, which we're doing. Deep writing, continue that. Possibly, I did start a second book. Hopefully get close to the finish line on that. Support Angie with art. Live in another country for 3 months. Host a writing retreat somewhere in the world. 40th birthday party. I think I struggled with celebrating myself, so I'd love to do something big and maybe spend an amount of money that would make me uncomfortable. I also put sell strategy U. I'm realizing I did not make these very Michelle-centric. Though for me, that's the easy part. Of course, I'm going to prioritize her and do a lot of stuff with her. So it's hard to imagine that. Also, she can't walk for another.
Right. So that's actually the reason why I put bucket number 1 in 2 years, because Michelle will be a toddler at that time, and that's probably before we have a second kid or before our second kid will be born. And people keep telling us that before kids can express their own preferences running around, that's the best time to travel. And I want to have like an overall view, and then I have a question for you. So like,
what are your two? Or you have a vision?
No, not the vision. Like, it's just when I was listing out. So the way you do this exercise is you list out everything you want to do, and then you put them into different buckets. And
I didn't do it that way.
I found out there are so many activities there. They're like they can be fit into any buckets, because I want them. Like I want to do them now, but I also want to do them with my future other kids. So that's one thing interesting. And the question for you is, you never told me you were going to sales strategy you.
I mean, it's always been a thought. Like, I think my passion just isn't there. It's some sort of strategic arrangement or finding a COO to hire. I need to find somebody that is interested in the topic, which is a very niche thing. But yeah, TBD.
It's good to have podcasts once in a while to figure out what the other person is thinking in their head, huh?
Yeah, I could do this for 8 hours, but you get tired of my thinking and plotting.
Okay, not gonna comment on that. For my first 2 years, my plan is to have a second kid. I want to learn craniosacral therapy. One thing that I found out throughout this is like I keep wanting to go back to movement. And I think craniosacral therapy is something that really I personally benefit a lot for the past years. And I know it will be very beneficial for me to learn and help my kids too. So craniosacral therapy is a way, like if you go to, it's like a massage, but not really. It's like, as is called therapy. What I do is the therapist literally just put their finger lightly touch the back of your skull and to improve the spinal fluid going. And just by doing that and maybe lightly touch your other part of the body, a lot of past memories will start surfacing. So it's very famous for like treating trauma and TMJ pain, which is like also highly correlated with trauma. And I think that would be such a cool thing to do for me to learn craniosacral therapy. I want to live in Las Palmas and a major city in Spain. Las Palmas is
in the next 2 years?
Yeah.
So we got to do this in 2022.
Is our first destination when we went nomadic. And I think it's an environment that is good for kids before they get a full vaccine. I want to have vacation with extended family that appear in every bucket. And this one, I want to stay in own water.
Ooh,
again,
nice.
With only
I don't
milk.
know if that even... Own water is like this floating house on isolated lake in Thailand.
Okay, that's Paul's definition of water. My definition of water is where I decided I'm gonna marry Paul. Let me rephrase what it is. It's this magical floating cabin on the lake where you have to take 20 minutes of water taxi to, and you see literally nothing but the lake. You can't see anything else.
I'll overlay some images.
And at nighttime,
cute, beautiful music and images. Da da da. Yeah, keep.
At nighttime, there are lizards running around, and there is no hot water. There's no Wi-Fi. It's just literally you and the other person, and that's the most magical and spiritual place I've been to. And it's in those 3 days that we spent our time in on water. Actually, the third month we were dating, that we did nothing. We had nothing but each other, and that's the time I was very confirmed, very, very sure that I want to be with Paul for a long, long time. So I want to bring our daughter back.
Let's do it. In the next 2 years?
In the next 2 years.
In Spain, and be in the U.S. for citizenship. We'll have to work on this. I think 2 to 3 years.
Hey, dream big. Dream big.
All right, next 2 years?
Yeah, you will be 42, I'll be 38, and Michelle will be 4. That's before Michelle.
I'll be 42.
So that's before Michelle is going to a formal school, if she's going to a formal school.
Yeah, so I've published another book, with Angie, or maybe start one. Interviewed Tim Ferriss. I put something just scary for me to write down and put in public there. I put another bold goal. I've been trying to like just be bolder with my goals because it's scary for me to like dream big and picture myself as successful. Become Korean Taiwanese known author. So working on some foreign rights deals now. Like I just feel like we need to wake up those work cultures. Live in Bali and go to the green school with Michelle.
Oh my God, I was thinking about that too, but it's not in my bucket.
And then rent like a house in Italy and pay people to come or pay for like the villa or and chef or cooking classes or something. And this was quick. Like I should probably do a little deeper.
It's funny when you say about the famous author thing, you said, I want to become Korean. I was like, why do you want to become Korean? You should become Taiwanese first. Why Korean? Okay, that's just getting in the house. So for me, it's have a third kid if you want a third kid, and then live in Costa Rica and Puerto Escondido, and live in Taiwan, especially Taitung, Dulan, where we both very like.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, one thing would be to like convince some relative to like spend some time in Taiwan with us. I don't know if anyone will do that. If anyone's watching this who is related to me, come to Taiwan with your kids and we'll all learn Chinese and eat great food for a year.
You don't have to learn Chinese, but I will show you guys great food.
The kids could learn Chinese. So easy for kids.
Bucket number 3, 5 years. You will be 47. I'll be 43. Literally, when I write down
42 to 47.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
42 to 47, and you'll be
38 to 43.
All right.
Michelle will be 9 years old.
Wow.
4 to 9. This is really scary. Just like me listening to 43, I just cannot fathom the fact that I will one day turn 40. So this is pretty scary for me.
Are you going to celebrate it with a party? All right.
Sorry, you go first.
So, yeah, I had a hard time imagining the kid stuff. I think my general thinking with kids is like it will figure its way out. And also, we're going to get to know more of her personality and adjust needs. I think find international school to enroll or place we want to be or like a place in the U.S. that's inspiring to us. I don't know where it is. Probably very community-centric that is not tied into like a sort of traditional metrics chasing world, maybe more connected to land, good food. I put cooking course. I'd love to continue to take cooking. It's something I go deeper on in my life. 10-year wedding celebration. Get involved in international schools, maybe teach, live in Europe, live abroad with willing cousins. I've said that already. Maybe start thinking about a home base. Maybe that tiny house comes to fruition as like a place to host retreats and stuff, right? Things like that. But yeah, the further in the future, the more I struggle.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting because we talk about bucket after bucket. This doesn't feel like that far away from now, but it's actually 9 years away from now.
Yeah, we got married 4 years ago.
How much we've accomplished over the past 9 years. What were you doing 9 years before this?
9 years.
How old were you?
I was 31. I just moved to New York, and
You're not 31. You're 38 now.
Oh yeah.
9 years.
29. I was in Boston. I was like, I had this deep pull to like do something with my life. My vault step was to go to New York. Really, I wanted to like start another life, but yeah, it's another lifetime. I was still recovering from health issues and really trying to come out of that shell.
So 9 years ago, it was 2015. I was maybe 26. I just came back from New York City where I tried to find job for a whole year. Couldn't really find something that is fulfilling. I came back to Taiwan, feel like a failure. And I remember one day I was biking from my like very small, tiny room to the gym, and I was listening to James Brown's, and I think it's called Annie, that song, and it sings that Annie, you're a star, you just don't know You just don't know who you are. And I just like bawling. I was just like, I'm a loser. I didn't achieve anything in my life. Like now I still didn't achieve like super big thing in life on a default path, but I'm very happy with where I am. All right. In that bucket for me, the first thing, you're not gonna believe this, I want to compete in a bodybuilding competition.
That's believable.
Really?
Yeah, you were always interested in it.
No, but I think, okay, so I'm conflicting writing on this, and the reason why I wrote about this one in this bucket is because I know a lot of moms, the first thing they do after giving birth to all their kids is to join the competition to prove that they still own their body. They can still look the way they want to look. And I know bodybuilding competition is not the healthiest in terms of like the way you regulate your food or your mental health, but that's something that I've always been thinking. I want to live in Ubud, and the reason why Southeast Asia, like finally, like long term is also Southeast Asia finally appear in this bucket is I think at this time our kids might all have their full vaccine, and I feel comfortable bringing them to countries that have more like dengue fever.
I mean, a vaccine will never stop dengue fever.
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right, but you know what I mean. I want to live in Ubud. I want to visit India, Nepal, and Tibet. So I'm so drawn to Tibet, man. I'm so drawn to Tibet.
A lot of people are.
Mm-hmm. So this one interesting too. I want to be certified in neurokinetic therapy and PDTR. I think it's called proprioceptor deep tendon reflexor, something like that. It's something that is just like blow my mind, a new way of understanding the human body. And I want to become a movement specialist.
Nice.
I want to have a profitable art business selling my art, and I want to have vacation with my extended family, our extended family. And I think the reason why this movement thing really come back like in such a full-blown way is I feel like movement is always something I wanted to do, but now I would rather spend time on art because I feel like learning about movement style, you need such extensive time to learn and put into practice. You probably need to be physically based in a place so you can have clients cases to practice. And I feel like at that time, bucket is perfect for me re-entering movement especially. And also at that time, I believe I will already be very successful in earning money. And whatever that means, maybe I'm finally steadily earning money.
Don't laugh. Why are you laughing?
Be serious about yourself, Angie. So I think at that time I will be able to approach being a movement specialist, but not attached to how much money I make from that. And then I will be able to approach the fitness profession from abundance.
Yeah. Why is money such an important thing there?
What do you mean?
It's just like, you could have just said the movement thing, but it seems attached to money for you.
This is a coaching session. Well, I think because last time I leave the fitness spaces because I just hate how much I feel the scarcity of money while exploring my love for fitness and how people compete the business opportunity while trying to work with each other. And I really love movement. I really wanted to learn about it from a abundance mindset.
Nice.
And so something I realized these days, I always feel so shameful that whenever I share my art and knowing that I have a lot of professional artist friends, I just feel like whatever I do, I will not be able to catch up with them. Not in the next 1 year, not in the next 3 years. So I wanted to give up all the time. I just feel like I'm so laughable when I share my reels and stuff. But one day I woke up, I think I was just watching the reel one of my artist friends make, and I was like, okay, do you think you won't be able to make this artwork in 10 years? Are you kidding me? I will definitely able to make this in 10 years. It's not in the next 1 year or next 3 years, but definitely in the next 10 years. I just need to keep going. And so I feel like 9 years is the time I can confidently say that I am selling my art and running a profitable art business.
Nice. Well, that's such a important thing. Like if you're comparing yourself to other people, you always lose because you always find things they're good at, right? Yeah, it's cool you're finding a better relationship to art. I think it's incredible.
One thing that is interesting about this exercise is in my newsletter I share about in my NLP training we did a like designing a powerful life course, and for that course we actually start from 20 years, and then we did a meditation to put us in abundance, a sensation of abundance, and then we start from that 20 years. So we won't start from the limitation of where we are now, because 20 years is such a long span of time that anything could happen. So from that 20 years, you draw a picture, you list very detailedly in that date, that point of time, what were you doing, who are you with, what does your life compose? And then you go back to the previous 10 years, and then the previous 5 years, and previous 3 years, and then next month, next day, today, what are you gonna do? So it's a little bit different from we doing this bucket exercise, which brings us to the, oh my God, we still have 2 buckets.
47 to 57 for me. This will be 7, 9. Michelle will be 10. You'll be...
No, Michelle will be 19.
No, at the end of it, yeah. It's the 10 years, 9 to 19.
And I will be 43 to 53. Man.
This is like when they look at the happiness studies, this is when like people fall apart. So we got to get our shit together.
Why do people fall apart?
Just like peak kids, peak career, peak stress. But we are aware of that, so we can try to avoid that.
Why are they at their peak and then still fall apart?
I think people age too. And if they're not peak healthy, you're going to start feeling worse. Your body breaks down. You're maybe not eating as healthy. And yeah, I mean, this is why like health is so important to me now.
It is.
But we'll check back in 9 years.
It's funny for me when I look at...
I run out of stuff when I get to this.
Oh, really? That's a good thing, actually.
Well, I just have a hard time imagining.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also because you are living such a traditional. I mean, for some people, maybe their dream life is like explore this country, become a digital nomad, or like live abroad.
But for us,
we're already doing it. I mean, we're already doing it, so we just come up with different versions of it. But I think so. I want to share this. For me, for the previous bucket, I look at my age, 43. I still feel like I think I can imagine what I look like. Probably pretty much the same like now, which I also looked like this when I was 23. I can see traces of still uncertainty and incompetence in me. But when I look at the word 53, I see this long hair woman who has wrinkles on her face and so confidence and radiance with joy and peace.
What do you think that person would say to you now?
You're fine, girl. You're great. Whatever you do, I
bet I'll still be pretty happy.
You probably will be. I only have 3 things in this bucket. Go. The first one is live in Ubud, but with parents.
With our parents?
I know it's very close to Taiwan, so my parents will probably come. I don't know if your parents are willing to take a long flight.
Yeah, everyone's going to... Yours will be in their 60s still. Mine will be in their 70s.
No, they will be their 70s.
Yeah.
And I think they will still love to travel abroad. And I have this... Yeah, I just feel like I wanted to be living in a villa with them. Because when we were kids, we do this family travel. And I remember this image of me sitting in the courtyard with my family in one of the villa, and then they have staff cooking bacon for us, and the staff is so bad at cooking bacon that the bacon got so burned like a cookie, and then so when they serve the cookie to us, serve the bacon to us, we're all so shocked, and then my mom and my auntie are just like throwing the bacons in each other's plates. I say, see, it even cleans like a cookies, ha ha ha, and like I just remember that time, like we're all so happy together as an extended family, and I want to experience that in Ubud with my parents, with our parents. And I will have an art exhibition. Can be big, can be small, maybe just some pictures hanging in a small coffee shop. I will be very happy. So you didn't do the last one?
I did, yeah.
Oh, you did?
So, I mean, you didn't ask me my 47 to 57 bucket yet.
But wait, you said you didn't write anything in these 2 buckets.
I did. I didn't write that much. Learn cooking in 2 to 3 countries, orient life around kids. They're probably going to, maybe they're going to be, Michelle will probably be sick of us, but mentoring young people, I feel like that theme keeps coming back. I always want to be mentoring young people and in those environments. Wind down intense work, start like hitting the downslope. Find sort of like a retirement semi-home. Maybe that's when I'd be interested in purchasing a home or something. Or just like inheriting homes. And yeah, that's it's very vague, but
it's 20 years from now.
I guess
maybe
the
we'll be
themes
living
are
metaverse.
cooking, teaching, working less, and kids. Yeah, it's a good life.
Last 10 years.
For me, I put slow travel. I don't think I'll want to do intense touristic travel or short term. I want to like go places and live for 3 months. Learn languages, travel with kids, spend time at the family lake house, maybe go on cruises. I'll be older and don't want to walk as much, but like 57 to 67, I should still be running, right? I'm going to be biking at least. I put professor, like maybe that's when I get involved in the university. Or like hopefully David Perel has his university by then and I'll just volunteer.
Hey, did you realize that in the last 10 years, at the end of that 10 years, Michelle will be 29 years old?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so did that change some?
I think it's so hard to imagine. I don't have expectations of like, I hope she has to do these things. The most important thing is that we love and support her and she's being the person she's capable of being.
I think, so I wrote down vacation with extended family. That's the only thing in my pocket. Because I feel like...
big extended family by then.
That's true. I think like, now it's just really hard for me to imagine that it's like 30 years afterwards, right? And I think like some details we will only figure out when we explore our life path for the next years. And technology is gonna change so much. Maybe Michelle will be in Mars, who knows? But one thing I know is I want to be flexible enough so I can visit Michelle wherever she is, and our other kids too.
So I think the thing that jumped out in yours, the themes, you're starting to get way bolder about art, which is cool. I've been rooting for this for a while. I did not hear anything about writing in your list. But yeah, and then traveling with extended family and vacations, I think that's like very important. That's for me too.
And movement is important.
I was surprised I put cooking in a lot of mine.
But cooking is so attainable for you. I mean, literally where we go, we can just sign up for an Airbnb experience.
No, I want to do like in depth. Like I want to study for like a month. Like my reflection of studying Chinese while starting to write my book in 2021 for 3 months, that was like thriving for me. 4 hours of studying, or like 4 to 6 hours of studying in class every day, biking around, writing. Yeah, it was intense, hard, and like really meaningful.
Shout out to Miles, who inspired Paul on cooking.
Yeah.
It's really, now that you mentioned Taiwan, so we're actually going back to Taiwan for 3 months next month.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting but scary thing for me. I mean, being close to my family and my hometown is always scary because it not only reminds you of where you grew up, it also reminds you of all the limitations that makes you who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think the U.S. is unique in that there are so many different cultures here, so many different communities. Like ways of working. Like you can find your tribe in like culture and energy, like 100 different places in the US, but like Taiwan is like definitely a monoculture. And the monoculture does not vibe with you completely.
And there are just so many expectations that when you're away, it's fine. But when you're in Taiwan, you sort of have to follow the Taiwanese norm. Like yesterday morning, I was talking to my parents that we want to go to Matsu, an island in Taiwan I've never been before. And they were kind of disappointed. They're like, oh, you're already in Taiwan. Why are you leaving the family? Why are you going to a place that we don't want to travel with you? And it's sort of like every travel decision we made when we go back to Taiwan has to be matching their calendar availability too. And I was like, man, it just reminds me of how resistant I am when going back to Taiwan. But I wanted to mention this. I am so surprised when you said that no matter how I plan our trip to Taiwan, you want to stay in Taipei for a month because that's your home.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's like a home for me. In a sense, I was like reborn, I think, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was wrapping up my first year of self-employment and about to go to Taiwan. I was about to meet you like 3 months from now, 5 years ago. And yeah, I just felt at peace there and connected to myself for the first time in my life. So I think it's always going to be a special place for me.
Yeah, you are so chill at that time. I think you were in a transition of like just
I was very lost, but I was very open to the world.
Yeah, lost and chill.
I was very open to what was coming.
The way you smile is that I'm so happy. I just
Well, I think that was like my broken work identity too. I was still really recovering from that. I really lost myself in my past career, and it took me a while to like wear a shirt like this with more color and like laugh a little more and like be a little more energetic. It took a lot of work to get here today.
Mm-hmm. So TBD, we'll do another episode when we're in Taiwan.
Give us the plan.
Give us a plan. We're going to talk about...
Angie is now in charge of whatever she's calling this. The cadence, the agenda, she's in charge.
We're going to be in Taiwan and we'll talk about our reflection of arriving in Taiwan and our my reverse culture shock and how you feel about living in Taiwan again.
Maybe we'll do it in a park in Taichung.
Too much mosquitoes. All right, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any ideas of us, of what you want us to talk about in future episodes, please let us know by messaging us. Messaging Paul on Twitter most likely because I like to avoid messages. No, I still love you guys, but I just can't check messages or like subscribe to our newsletter. I'm also
We don't have an R newsletter.
Our newsletter is
Angie creates Substack, Boundless Substack.
I started writing about a mini memoir series about what is it like being an international here in the States. So if you're interested in telling us what you think, please let us know.
All right. Sounds good. See you later.
Bye.